right. Hello, Team Dino. This is DW here, and I'm really excited to bring in Brian Tishy to Team Dino. Brian is one of the most amazing drummers that you'll ever see. Just an incredible drummer, but also a showman and one hell of a musician. Brian, how the heck are you?
Good. How you doing?
I am awesome.
Great.
It's cool. You started off way back when and with a traditional music school at Berkeley. I mean, oh my gosh, Berkeley's like the pinnacle. How'd you get to that path and start from there and get that musical bug?
Oh, well, the musical bug started long before Berkeley, but I just thought drums were the coolest thing ever, and everybody wants to play drums, and because they're cool. As a little kid, that's all I thought, and I figured the only reason somebody wouldn't have a drum set is because they either don't have the room or it's too loud or something like that. So that was my, 5, 6-year-old thoughts on a drum set, and that as soon as I got drums, that was it. Done deal. I knew that's what I was going to do. And, which included taking private lessons from like 4th grade on. And then somewhere toward the end of high school, being the oldest of 4 kids, my parents were like, "You're going to college." And I was like, "For what? I don't want to go to college. No way. I have no interest in college." But they were like, "Yeah, your grandparents saved for it, and, you're going to college." And then somebody told me about Berkeley, a college where you get real college credits, and but it's all about music.
Yeah,
it's 24/7 music. So we looked into that, and I'm from New Jersey, and that was like 4 hours up the road, up in Boston, and it worked out. But it was great for what Berkeley is. It was great if you're like myself, an 18-year-old kid who wants to get better. That was definitely a great place to be. Learn all different styles, and it's not just the classes there at all. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff. And I'm sure it's even better now. I think they've gotten a better grip on the reality of the music business in the bigger picture, where back in the day, it might've been more jazz based. I think, rock and pop and just all that stuff it's been, made very clear that, if you're going to be a professional musician and earn money, it's not just going to be, jazz is probably one of the most hard places to,
Sure.
Sustain a living as a musician, But yeah, it was great, and all the classes were cool and all that stuff. But one of the main things was learning from the other students and learning from other great, guitar players and drummers that were, teenagers like myself. That was you're constantly going back and forth with your buddies on new licks or techniques or whatever. You're all learning. It's just so if you want to get better there and you're focused and driven, it will happen. The only thing there is you may get a false sense of what the real world of the music business is, but like anything, you have to get out and do that. I mean, there's a music business class there, and it's probably the main thing they tell you is, don't sign anything without a lawyer, and that's cool and all, but there's just the whole, getting into the music business and everything that can possibly go on that probably will go on, you have to, there's nothing that can prepare you for that. You just have to do it, and to sort of also let a lot of what you've practiced at Berkeley, music college, you're going to have to let a certain chunk of that fall to the wayside, not in your practice routines or whatever, but more, as a professional musician, you're not going to go in to audition for a band. You might be auditioning for some upcoming band that sounds like AC/DC, and if you go start putting in all your little jazz fusion fills, it's just not going to work out. So, but I think some people do get this misconception of, I'm going to show the world what I've learned at Berkeley, and that's great if you're doing it in the right place, But there's a time and a place for keeping things simple, and then there's a time and place for letting it all loose.
Well, and so taking Berkeley to 2017. I know there's a bunch in the middle there, but I want to hit on this note. So in 2017, when you were with the Daisies, you guys had an opportunity to play with a Polish orchestra, and in front of what, 500,000 people or something. And you actually wrote the orchestration for the orchestra to play with you guys, did you not?
Oh, if I did it when I was really drunk because I don't remember. I don't think so. No, I think we just went there and did our thing, and
Somebody said
I
that
may
you
have
wrote it.
no, I may have helped out in a way, or just being able to read charts and understand that stuff. Maybe I was able to help between the band themselves and the orchestra, but I didn't. But I don't think I wrote anything. No,
Okay.
no, I know
Well,
I didn't. No, no, there were charts that were already made by the conductor and all that stuff, and maybe I just overlooked, looked over it and helped out a little bit. Yeah.
that show was pretty amazing, though. I mean, to have that 60-piece orchestra there playing with you guys, it was I get goosebumps just watching it. It was really, really cool. And the
Yeah,
size of the crowd.
it's fun to do stuff like that. That was just being able to, get together for, I think it was a couple days of rehearsing. Just to be able to play through our set at the time with a bunch of new covers and have that all charted out for an orchestra. Do it together. Yeah, looking back, it was a lot of fun and challenging because while they're reading charts and we're a rock band, like we can kind of, we can be off the cuff a bit. If somebody does something different in a song, as a rock band, you can roll with it. If there's a mistake made or an extension or somebody just, whatever it is, but with an orchestra and classical players, they're relegated to sticking to the chart,
Yeah.
so that's a big potential for a train wreck there if you're not all, really thinking about that. We can't veer off the path too much at all. But yeah, we were a pretty tight band, so we knew what we were doing, and we were, I think, fairly well rehearsed, and it came together, and yeah, it was a fun show.
I love
For sure.
that show, and I talk a lot about the 6 degrees of separation, and it's actually when you talk about musicians and of your caliber, and Dean's caliber, it's like 2 or 3 degrees. And so you look back at your career, and as we said earlier, when you were with Foreigner, you toured with Journey, and that's where you first met Dean. And then you look forward in the Dead Daisies, you had Marco on bass and Doug, and you played with them with Whitesnake. And so you guys have played in a bunch of different bands together. And at the end of the day, there's a small coterie of folks that play all the time or have played together and know everybody, and it's a pretty tight little group, right?
Yeah. As the years go by, it becomes less surprising when you find yourself in these positions because, doing this for 30 years now, I'm like, holy shit, I can't believe I've been doing this for that long. But yeah, you cross paths with people, and then it might be 10 years later, you're like, oh, we're in a band together, cool. I'm doing that as we speak of this new project that just started up with the singer that put a band together. And it ended up being with people I've worked with, just about all of them I've worked with in past bands and projects and stuff. But yeah, it was great to get in there. When you join a new band, it's a new band. But if you've worked with the bass player, you're friends with them, and you've done something, a record and a tour with the guitar player, yeah, it makes it a lot easier to be able to get into that, get in the groove of things and feel comfortable.
Yeah.
It's comfort is the main thing. You don't want to go in too comfortable thinking, oh, I know everybody, so I don't have to worry about it. You still want to get your job done, and you still want to make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to do and everybody's happy, but in the case of that band, I was already in there a couple of years before Doug Aldrich came in. And when Doug came in, he had already been with Marco in the Daisies in Whitesnake for a while, and then Doug and I had done Whitesnake for years together. So when he came in, it was really easy, and yeah, I'd known everybody in there. Oops, sorry, dropped something. But yeah, it's still cool. Like I said, it's just less surprising now because all these years have gone by and I've, found myself in those positions already. But it's always a good thing. Yeah.
And it is. And we have a lot of younger drummers that are part of this group. It's amazing. Since we've been doing this for a couple of years now, there are all sorts of drummers around the world that look up to Dean. And one of the reasons I wanted to bring you in here too, that you and Dean both look up to Peter Criss as an idol 40 years ago. You know, when and I'm only a couple of years older than, you know, even though I'm all gray and you're not, but you know, that was the drummer back in the day. He was cool, and you know, he was the standard that we were all looking for. So
Yeah, there was a ton of great drummers. I mean, there's always a ton of great drummers around, no matter what decade you're looking into. But just to be a kid and get into, and Kiss was so big in the 70s, yeah, that was the first. I mean, Kiss came to me at a perfect age. I mean, I was really young. I was probably like, you know, 7, 8 years old, and the drumming was simple enough where you could kind of pick up on it, but there's a lot of great things going on inside there. And you know, Kiss is really just a straightforward rock band for the most part. You know, they're not going to be throwing too many progressive things your way or whatever. But so it's you know, as far as learning how to play rock drums and pretty much strictly doing it via Kiss records, I think it was a great thing. You know, and I think Dean would sit next to me and agree. You know, if you want to talk, if you want to go, you know, if you want to debate Peter Criss and his you know, and his worthiness as being, you know, noted as a great drummer, you're going to get two guys sitting next to each other defending how badass he was in so many ways, because there's really a lot of great stuff. And I think it's overlooked just because Kiss was known mainly for the, you know, the show and the gimmicks and all that stuff. But, you know, man,
it still comes down to music, Brian, and you still gotta have a hook.
Yeah, I mean, I learned how to play Ghost Notes from Calling Dr. Love, you know, and if you don't know that song, go listen to the record and listen to that killer sounding snare drum, and listen to the great sounding drums on Love Gun, and then the amazing sounding snare drum on Kiss Alive 2. And it is amazing playing on Kiss Alive, you know, on all the records, but, you know, it really shines on the live records and those like, you know, Destroyer, Rock and Roll Over Love Gun and stuff like that. Yeah, but I'm glad he was my first drum teacher, so to speak, you know, and it was great all these years later to meet him and get to tell him that and everything. But yeah, I think he's overlooked in a big way. And you know, if we could go into drum details, I could say, okay, check out this part and this part and this and that, you know. But yeah, there's you know, for as much greatness was going on with, you know, the John Bonhams and Neil Peart's and all that stuff, which, you know, which to this day are still noted as the top of all, you know, and all the lists. But, you know, Peter Criss might not be mentioned in that kind of way, but he's a cool drummer with a cool swing and a cool groove. And he made up some great parts, and it wouldn't be the same. Those records wouldn't be the same without him.
Well, and you've got over your left shoulder there is your kit with the Farewell to Kings on it, and you know, you mentioned Neil Peart, and you guys do the Rush tribute at I've seen it at Vamped in Vegas. It's just amazing, and anybody that gets the opportunity to see you guys do that, it's just something to do. It's a reason to go to Vegas.
Yeah, it's fun stuff. That kit's usually not up, but there was a Modern Drummer 2020 festival with it, which was mostly a tribute to Neil earlier this year, and I don't know, in like August or September, it was a couple months ago, September I think. Yeah, it was on Neil's birthday, so I had busted out the kit and cleaned it up and tuned it up and set it up and mic'd it up and came up with a drum solo and all this stuff. So it's been in the studio here since then, just because I kind of didn't want to tear it down. I did some sessions on it as well, because I was like, oh man, I like having it up. And next to it, there's a bunch of drums next to it. You can't see, but there's there's a Bonham set up over there, the different type of kit, which is usually right in the center of the room. But I figure I just wanted to keep two kits up for a little bit, you know, and
and you know, and speaking of the Bonham kit, so one of the things for our young drummers that are part of Teamdeeno here is that Brian does some Bonham. There's a couple of different things that you do for Bonham. Is the Bonzo Bash, which a bunch of folks have played at NAMM, and NAMM's not going to happen this year, but hopefully it'll happen next year. We'll keep our fingers crossed for 22. But you're also breaking down some of Bonham's licks that it's available at briantishy.com, right?
Yeah, yeah. The Bonzo Bash thing that started in like 2010. Actually, the first show was the 30th anniversary of his passing, September 25th, 2010. Yeah, it was just a little idea. It really was just a little idea of like, what if I got a bunch of my buddies together and we just set up a Bonham kit and we all picked a song and we had our other buddies learn the songs and we had a party. It was that simple. And then it was like, well, if I actually did put that together in a rehearsal room, you know, and got a keg of beer or whatever, I mean, wouldn't that be something people might want to see? You know, if everybody ended up being together, that might be cool enough to make it into a thing, a proper show. And then I was like, I don't know if I want to deal with all that. And I was working with a local promoter in town who would put like a monthly show on together with an all-star band and all that. And, you know, we had a gig coming up. And I was like, well, I could bring this up to him and see what he thinks. Because if he's into it, maybe he can get the date and we could do this together. And I told him about it. He's like, yeah, that's really cool. And he ended up having the Key Club in West Hollywood on September 25th, which was it was a Saturday night, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I shouldn't pass this up. You know, all I got to do is call, you know, I'll get the kit, put a band together and, you know, call a bunch of drummers. And it ended up really being a great show. And I didn't know if it was going to continue. Which it did. You know, it was after it was pretty exciting after it happened. It was like, oh, cool, man, everybody had a good time. And, you know, and I didn't know at the time, and I don't think at the time anybody had ever done that for John Bonham. Like actually of course it's not his kit. It's just like, yes, it was a Ludwig amber acrylic kit with Pisces on it, you know, the whole thing. But it was, you know, tuned up in the spirit of, you know, as best I could or whatever. But after you do that, you go, wow, man, I thought it was cool to have drummers from, you know, whether it's Tool and Quiet Riot and Paul McCartney and, you know, Scorpions and whatever, you know, Jane's Addiction, like have Chili Peppers, all these different drummers get on the same kit and play their favorite song with a house band. I thought that was kind of a cool concept. And and something that I think, you know, John Bonham deserves because it's fun. He is the most badass drummer in rock. You know, historically, he really is. And I'm not just, you know, it's like he is, of course. I'm just saying something everybody knows.
Yeah.
But it was fun because he really has been my favorite drummer since I got into Zeppelin soon after Kiss for the same reasons everybody else does, which is like there's something about Bonham's groove and his sound and tied in playing in the best band in the world, you know, playing in Zeppelin and making them sound that way. It all just worked out, you know, and him, you know, passing it, you know, 32 years old, it's like, it sucks. He could have done so much more. So yeah, let's honor him. Let's throw down. And I, you know, and I say that I mentioned some drummers and of course, Jason Bonham was there at the very first show, you know, so that with his whole family, which just made it more intense, you know, that was the icing on the cake. It was already going to be a really cool, fun, intense type event. But when you put that stuff on top, it made it more like, I don't know. It made it a little more surreal, you know, because I wasn't looking at it being something like that. And then it kept going on and on. You know, we've done it on the East Coast a bunch of times. We've done it on. We brought it to Moscow, 2015. You know, for the NAMM show there. It was like a Saturday night event there, which was killer. It was a lot of fun. And yeah, so if you know, if we get back to a place where we can do live events, you know, maybe I'll do it again. But you know, I always said there's never a bad time or place for Bonzo Bash. You know, no. It's like you don't have to have some big anniversary to do it. You just do it because it's because he's the baddest rock drummer ever who deserves that more than anybody else. You know.
Yep. And his licks were so crazy. You know, you've got to be multi-talented in order to pull it off. It's not an easy lick to do. Everybody thinks it's pretty simple, but it's very complicated.
Yeah, I think for me, just growing up on it and being so into it, maybe I picked up on it on certain things, you know, quicker than other people, maybe who didn't, you know, but I was a young kid getting into all that stuff. And some of it just made sense to me and it was so cool sounding, you know, but everybody, you know, Bonham's so much different than Peart, and Peart has so many great Peart-isms, you know, that are nothing like Bonham-isms. And but they're both badass. You put it all together and you try and come up with your own stuff, and hopefully, people notice you as a rock drummer, But
and I was about going to see Neil Peart, and one of Dean's favorite things was being in front row. He knew a promoter when they were in Portland, and went to see him, and they were in the front row, and he says, "Oh my God, I'm 60 feet away from the professor," and just sitting there, just watching him and the licks. And I remember just sitting there and just closing my eyes and just feeling the wall of sound, and then opening my eyes and remembering that it's just three guys on stage. And just the stuff that they put together is just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, totally.
The cool thing is that looking back at your career, and we were talking about live shows, and one of my absolute favorite live albums that from an engineering standpoint is the Whitesnake Made in Japan.
Cool.
It's just technically, some live albums come out and it's a shitty quality, but I literally listen to that whole thing once a week, and it's just, Forevermore is one of my favorite songs of all time, and listening to Doug playing the guitar on that, and it's amazing. And so tell us a little bit about being in Whitesnake when you were there for a number of years.
Yeah, no, it was a blast. I had a great time, and thank you for the kind words. I just simply played drums on the record. I think it was between David Coverdale's right-hand man, Michael McIntyre. I think him and Doug Aldrich, I think they may have mixed it together. I'd have to look back, but yeah, it came out sounding good. That was a pretty good representation of what we sounded like live, and that live record, I think it was from, it's the whole Japan show.
Yes.
I mean, it's a one-off. We flew to Japan. I know we did a few shows, but this was at the Loud Park Festival. So it wasn't like it was our own stage and we had our all day, to set up and get into your regular tour mode. It was a one-off at an arena in Japan for an all day long festival. I think, if I'm right, like Limp Bizkit played. They had a stage on the other side of the arena as well. So like we'd play and then some other back and forth it kind of thing. But so it was pretty cool because a lot of things can go differently at a show like that. But it came off pretty cool. And on my side, the notable thing for me was before the tour. It's just kind of a funny story. David said to me, "Hey, Tischmeister, when we get to Japan, you've got to use chopsticks in your drum solo." I was laughing about it. I was like, "All right, yeah, I'll figure it. I'll do it. Why not?" And I told a drummer buddy of mine, this great drummer, Zoltan Chaney, who's probably one of the most visual drummers in the history of drumming. He's amazing. I wrote him, we text back and forth here and there, and I was like, "Hey, man, I'm going to use chopsticks in my drum solo in Japan." And he's like, "Cool, man, why don't you go all out and get the Ginsu knives?" And I was like, "Yeah, why not?" So like the day before the show, I wrote our assistant. I said, "Hey, is it cool if you get me like a Japanese headband thing and some chopsticks and some Ginsu knives?" And I went backstage and it was all there. So the thing is, okay, it's the day of the show. I've never done this before. So what you see in the drum solo is literally the first attempt at trying to incorporate those things in the drum solo. I had no clue what I was going to do. I just went, okay, I'm going to do something. And I think it would have been a lot better if I thought it through a bit, but I didn't because I wasn't actually sure if I'd get Ginsu knives. And I'm like, what do you do in an arena with chopsticks? You really can't do much. You have to just play play hard on the side of the drum, and hopefully some attack comes out in the microphones. But anyways, yeah, that was fun just to be able to have that documented as part of the drum solo and never having done it before, and it became part of the actual live album.
Well, see, now I didn't know that, so now I'm going to go back and I'm going to listen to that and pick that, see if I can pick that out. So that's very cool.
Yeah, and I'll follow it up with this. We continued from Japan through Asia, and then after that we were like back in Europe, I think. And David was like, maybe it's time to drop the the chopsticks and Ginsu knives since we're leaving Asia. And I was like, all right, cool. So I stopped using them. But a couple shows later, he comes back and goes, I kind of miss it. Put it back in, you know. So it just became a thing, you know. I think I did it till the end of the tour. But yeah, that David was great like that, because it was, you know, it was a pretty lengthy drum solo I was taking in that band, and it got longer. But it wasn't like, trust me, if David wanted it to be a certain amount of minutes, that's what it would have been.
Yeah.
But he was throwing things my way, like, do more of this, do more of that. You know what I mean? So it ended up being like 9 minutes, and you know, I look back and it's like, you know, some of it was okay, and some of it I could have probably made up a lot of cooler stuff. Like, so anyways, it just depends on where your head's at the time, you know. But it was, nonetheless, it was fun.
A solo is to just have some fun with it too, and you know, and to mix it up a little bit every day.
Yeah, I mean, I had my little themes and stuff, and I knew I'd go from this to this to this and that, and there'd be an element of improvisation throughout the whole thing. So, you know, or sometimes I just change it up radically just to see what would happen. But yeah, it was, I'm trying to think. There was also this like stick popping stuff where you like pop the stick off, and I'm going to go off into another like subject of drums here, but I want to come back to that. You mentioned breaking down Bonham, which was a study thing I have on my website. So I did want to get back and mention that, because it's cool and I don't really talk about it much, and I probably should promote it more. But anyhow, over the years, I learned how to pop a stick off of a floor tom, and it wasn't something I was working on like every day or anything. It was just like, I remember seeing David Lee Roth with Cinderella opening up back when I was at Berkeley, actually. And I remember Fred Corey finishing a song. He was the drummer in Cinderella at the time. They were like, this is like, they just came out, I think. Like, this is their first tour. And he went around the toms, and he went boom, and he hit the stick off the tom and shot it straight up in the air and caught it, and then like ended the song. Yeah. I was like, that's badass. You know, now I knew Keith Moon has done it, and Tommy Lee was doing it in the 80s off of the snare drum, but that just always seemed real scary. Like, just, that's the easiest. You want to lose an eye quickly. Sure. Start whacking a snare drum off your whacking a stick off your snare drum. And so I was like, oh man, it just kind of makes more sense if I could do it off the floor tom. You know, there's more room. You know, I don't have to worry so much. And I'm talking like 1986. I'm in Berkeley. So here and there, you know, because you can't really practice that much without annoying people. You know, the stick's flying here, the stick's flying there, and you're listening to a drummer go, it gets annoying, you know. So, you know, you have to pick and choose when you're gonna practice it. But over the years, finally I got it. Like, I was like, wow, I can almost do this when I'm playing. So it was like, I'm talking like almost 20 years. Like, there's years going by where I don't do it. You know, there's plenty of years where it's not something I'm ever really thinking of. It's like that's why I couldn't even tell you how many times I may not have practiced it for 5 years or worked on it. But eventually, I think I just remember noticing that I could kind of pop it straight. And started doing it a lot more, I think, like with Billy Idol and then into Foreigner and stuff like that. And I just, because I think if you watch, like, I don't do it in the 90s at all. It was somewhere in the 2000s, you know, like Billy Idol, I think. Just started doing it, like, but anyhow, it was all because I saw Fred Corey do it off the floor tom. And then by the time I got to Whitesnake, during one of the drum solos, and if it wasn't for David, I wouldn't have done what I do now. I just started going, I'm going to do a lot of pops as much as I can, as quick as I can. But this is during the middle of the drum solo. And because I used to just do it once, like finish a flurry, you go boom and catch it, you know, and then continue. And I was doing it when I was playing. You know, I could play a beat and then go, I'll pop it and then catch it, whatever. But I never just kept doing it over and over. You catch the stick and that's it. But in the middle of a solo, I was like, well, wait, if I just keep triplets going with my foot, I'll pop it. I'll grab another stick, and you know the bass drum's making the sound in between. And so somewhere in there, David was on the side of the stage watching me, and I just did like 4 or 5 in a row. It was like pop, boom, 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 pop, boom, and they started flying. And right after the show, he's like, "Dishmeister, that stick fireworks. You got to do that every night." And I was like, and somebody had caught it on YouTube. I remembered seeing that show, and it was also like I didn't do it great, but I did it like 4 times in a row. But David saw it and said, you got to do it. So at that point, I was like, okay, I'm going to make a thing out of this. And And it became, let's think this through. Let's do triplets, like bap, boom, 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 pop, boom, 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 boom. Then I'll make the triplets into double triplets, chaka dugga 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 chaka dugga, and then I'll triplet them with my left hand, and then and make it a bigger thing. And I'll have like 12 drumsticks for this. And then we started spiral taping like fluorescent colored duct tape on the sticks, so they look like spiral sticks shooting all. So it became a thing, and I doubt I would have gone that far with it if David didn't notice it that first time I did it, and then push to continue it and make it a bigger thing. So when I look back, it's like, man, that's cool. It's got nothing to do with the Whitesnake show. It's entertainment. It's a drum trick or whatever.
Yeah.
But he was encouraging like that. Yeah, and hey, man, it's entertaining. I'll give you some stuff, some drummer, friendly type things in the solo or whatever. But I'll, you're in an arena. Have some fun with the fact that you don't have a ceiling above you.
Well, and speaking of ceilings, I saw you throwing sticks up into the ceiling at Vamp too, and getting it stuck in the ceiling at Vamp.
Yeah.
Of course, the ceiling is only 7 feet.
Yeah, sometimes if you don't pay attention and you go to play a show, like I was just doing these clubs around the country, and then you go, I'm gonna pop a stick, and then oh shit, it's like now I got to think about it. I can't go as hard as I want because it's going to hit the ceiling, and then it loses the effect, because the cool thing about it is when it goes up and you catch it, But it was, I remember, I think we played this with the Dead Daisies. You played a club in like Nashville or something, and it had some kind of foam ceiling, and like I think my tech took a picture. There was at one point there were 3 sticks like stuck hanging from the ceiling. Had nothing to do with drumming at all. Nothing to do with, hey, kids, practice your technique and get better. But it was for sheer entertainment behind a kit. But that was a good picture, to just like
that Lee.
Pop a stick and it ends up sticking up there. It doesn't come back down. It's hanging. And I think I jumped up off my seat, caught, ripped it out of the ceiling or something, But there were 3 of them at one point.
That's awesome.
Anyhow, yeah, fun stuff.
And so just to tie it up now, let's talk a little bit about the Daisies. And so you were with them for a total of 4 years, 13, and then for a couple of years, 14, 15, 16, or 16, 17, 18, 14, 15, 16?
14 through 17.
Yeah. So, did some incredible stuff and played with Krabby and, of course, Doug and, tell us a little bit about your time with the Dead Daisies.
Oh, it was great, playing rock band with your friends and, having a bunch of touring through the year and making some records, it was all good. Opening up for Kiss on some different runs, and even, what was it? Skinnerd and Bad Company. We did some stuff with that. It's all great, man. You put me in a rock band and get us on tour opening up for bands that we all grew up idolizing, man. There's never going to be anything wrong with that,
No.
Especially Kiss, being a part of their show is amazing. Just to be able to set up your drums on their stage and, be backstage kind of seeing what goes on when you knew that there was a time when you were a little kid where that was fantasy land. You know what I mean? That always makes it worth it, when you're going through your ups and downs in this business. I'm sure there's some people who out there, some drummers and musicians who have had this amazing ride of nonstop income and success, but for most of us, it's a little bit more up and downhill, and those things, while they might not pay the bills, it doesn't matter, when you get to open up for your idols, and if they know your name or they say something that acknowledges respect, you know what I mean? That's amazing. So that's, so those experiences are what keep you going through the hard times, so to speak.
Yep.
And, like you were talking about seeing Rush earlier, and when I was 23, I was touring with this guitar virtuoso, Vinnie Moore. Vinnie's in UFO now. And back in the day, he had his instrumental guitar virtuoso record out called Meltdown, and myself and the bass player JD is a great friend of mine, and we met in Berkeley, and he's also from New Jersey. JD's now the bass player in Black Label Society. He's been there for a long time. But we were touring with Vinnie. We were his rhythm section, so it was just a trio. We were playing clubs all over the place in the States. But Vinnie's manager comes to us one day and goes, "Hey man, we're like in New York State in December. It's freezing. We're in 2 vans driving around playing 6 nights a week. And he's like, hey, you guys, Eric Johnson had to cancel the last 2 weeks of opening up for Rush on the Roll the Bones tour on the East Coast. And you guys are starting. You guys are filling in for him. Like, what? Yeah, you guys are opening up for Rush. Your first gig is 2 nights at the Philly Spectrum, followed by 2 nights at Madison Square Garden. You're going to work up to the Providence Civic Center, Worcester Centrum, the Buffalo, whatever arena, I forget what it's called. I'm like, whoa, 2 weeks we got to sit there, and it was so trippy because we're all huge Rush fans. It's just, and I was using Tamas at the time on the Vinny tour that I had since 9th grade that I got because of Neil using Tamas. So I'm setting up my Tamas. I'm pulling them in. We're pulling a van into an arena in the middle of the day, and I'd never been inside an arena without people there. In the middle, it was that already was trippy. Not to mention, it's Rush's night. It's Rush's stage. That's Rush's gear, and you're putting your drums in front of Neil's. That to still talk about it now, especially with the passing of Neil, is still so heavy because I mean. Yeah, I was still a kid at 23. You can get a lot done by the time you're 23, but relatively speaking, compared to how old I am now, that's young. So to be at freaking Madison Square Garden where my dad took me to see Kiss, when I was 11, to be there setting up my drums on Rush's stage in front of Neil's kid. So, anyways, that was an insane experience, and even meeting the guys and meeting Neil, and I remember at Madison Square Garden, Neil had come up on stage after we finished sound checking, and we're standing by the drums, and I asked him something about his bass drum or whatever, and then he said, "Hey, have you tried him yet?" And I was like, "No," and he goes, "Go ahead." And for the next 5-10 minutes, I was sitting behind his drums, just playing. He just stood there chuckling in front, and they spun the riser around, the 360 thing. I got to play all the electronics behind it. And, I was just sitting there like, still talking about it now is like, because that seems like, oh, maybe I had that was a cool drummer dream or something. Did that really happen? Because it was too much to take in. The experiences like that. And my point of that, that's stuff. You're like, well, hey, if I got myself, and I think it's a good note to say to a lot of people, man, because things can get you down easily, especially in this kind of business. Especially a year like this where everybody that thought they were working isn't working, and you have to figure out in survival mode of what you're going to do. And part of something that can keep you going is you just take all those positive experiences. And, you go, hey, man, if I got myself there, because really you did get yourself there compared to, hey, I might have known somebody who got my name in somewhere, which is how it happens a lot. But, but that person wouldn't have recommended you or put your name in if they didn't think you were good enough, right? So you get yourself in these places and just, I always look at it like, hey, if I got here, why can't I get there? I didn't know I'd ever be here. I didn't know I'd ever do this. And really what I'm doing isn't that impressive compared to freaking my drum idols. Like, really, I'm playing in rock bands. I'm a rock drummer. Cool.
Yeah, but it is though, Brian, because you've got an incredible bio and played.
That's fine. That's fine. I'm talking. Yeah, that's all good. But I've been doing this my whole life. Like, I've thought about nothing else except this. You've got Buddy Rich. You've got Neil Peart. You've got Bonham. You've got Keith Moon. You've had like, there's a nice list of 1,000 insane badass drummers that and I'm like, oh, that's cool. If I've got respect from what I've done, that's cool. And if I've done played in some notable bands, that's cool. And I've kept a career rolling, that's all cool. But I'm saying, I didn't sit there thinking like that when I was a kid. No. I sat there thinking, I remember looking in a mirror when I was like probably 12, going, in my 20s, I'm probably going to be this tall, and I'm going to be, by the time I'm 24, I'm going to have my own band, and we're going to be playing arenas. But I'm not saying, hey, man, it didn't work out that way when I was 24. So, yeah, was I in arenas in my 20s? Was I playing with notable bands? Yeah, it wasn't my band. Was I on was I getting recognition as that drummer because of those? No, I was just doing my thing. I was a working drummer, getting gigs. But I'm saying, you shoot for the highest place, So, I'll go there and I'll be going for that until I die. I'm accepting where I am now is fine. Like, I'm at a whole different point in my life now that compared to my 20s. Your 20s, you're thinking in a different way. Mm-hmm. Now I'm just like, I love everything I love about drums and music, and I still do all the same stuff. Like, physically, I feel the same. Like, mentally, I think I just experiences has made me smarter. But if you want to talk politics, don't ask me, because I don't care. And if you want to talk speed bags, let's talk speed bags all day long. But but yeah, I have a family and father and all that stuff, and it's so there's like responsibilities are totally different, and yeah, so it's all cool. Like I'm just going the same direction I've always gone, but I'm also not whining about anything, and I'm not sitting here down on myself because I'm not as I didn't get to the highest point of this dream that I had when I was a kid. I'm all cool with it. That's part of it. If you've heard some nice from your idols or from your peers, people you respect, when you hear nice things back, it's that matters more to me than if I was like the flavor of the month, or if I'm winning awards or on the cover of all the magazines. Like, that's all awesome, and I'd be a liar if I said didn't hope that stuff like that happens, but I'm cool. I'm cool. I'm just saying, I'm a realist too. You know what I mean?
Well, and our friend Dean told me this morning to say that you are a badass drummer, and to say hello, and that he does appreciate what you do behind the kit, and loves your work, and loves watching you play as I do. So let's wrap up.
That's nice.
So what can you say to our buddy Teamdeeno, and just say a quick message to Dino and to all his fans?
Well, I've always thought Dean's. We talked about this before we were recording. Always thought he was a great drummer, awesome drummer. I got to watch him every night on the Journey Foreigner '99 tour, and he absolutely killed it. And I remember first becoming a fan from a Tony McAlpine record. I think it was called Maximum Security, I think. But Dean's on most of that record, and it's great power hard rock drumming. Great double bass, and just great groove. It's just great drumming. And this is back in the '80s, before you had to wonder like how much work was done in the studio with editing and cutting and pasting and chopping, because that's like such a thing now, where back in the day it wasn't. It just wasn't. You might punch in doing a take or whatever, but you're cutting 2-inch tape and all that stuff. So what you heard was really what a drummer played like, which is just that means so much more to me than trying to than how records are made now. I want to know what I want to hear. Charlie Watts, when I'm listening to Charlie Watts, I want to listen to whatever, Simon Phillips, I'm listening to Simon Phillips. I want to listen to Peter Criss, and listen to Peter Criss, as opposed to it's him, but they chopped him up a million times in the studio, and they moved just bits of drums here and there. So anyways, dude, that's when I first became aware of Dean. It was back then. That was probably like '87 or something like that. And then touring with him was awesome. But I got to say, and I hear on the tour, oh man, you got to hear Dean sing, man. He's an amazing singer. Like, he sometimes sings Journey songs at soundcheck. I was like, oh, cool. Yeah, I'm sure he's a good singer, but we're talking Steve Perry here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then in 2006, Billy Idol and Journey and Maybe was like Twisted Sister and Blondie. We all did a radio show, K-Rock Festival. It's in California at Irvine Meadows. And that's the first time I was on the side of the stage and I watched Dean sing a Journey song. And he might have sang 2 that night. But I was just so freaking blown away. It just stopped me. I was like, okay, a good singer is a good singer, but oh my God, I'm watching Dean play the drums and sound so uncannily close to Steve Perry. Is he trying to? Is it natural? But anyways, yeah, man, that was like, I told him that. I said everything I saw, everything that went down in 2006 in my life, I'd say in the top 5 moments of everything in 2006, maybe top 2, was seeing you sing with Journey. It blew me away. It's an amazing singer. And anybody that hears him knows that. But if you don't know that, you got to check Dean out, because it's pretty scary.
Check out Neil Sean's Journey Through Time, and the one that they did up in San Francisco at the Independent. And Neil filmed the whole thing. It's in black and white, and it's freaking amazing. So and he sang every song except for like 2 that Greg Rowley sang, while still playing the drums. So 4 hours.
He's serious. No, amazing voice, and I mean, I'm sure he's worked on it, but usually, guys like that, it's like if you're really a drummer, but you have this ability to sing, like a la Steven Tyler and Chris Cornell, who were drummers first. it's built in. It's there. It's just a matter of letting it out. You know what I mean? If you have that ability to carry a note, to have a decent pitch, and just be able to carry a tune, and then you go, okay, I'm a drummer, but I'm gonna actually do the singing thing a bit as well. Yeah, man, it's an impressive thing. It's
Yep.
real serious.
So, hey, listen, I've taken up a lot of your time, and Brian, this has been a ton of fun, and I appreciate every second. And again, for Teamdeeno, check out briantishy.com. There's all sorts of cool stuff there. He'll break down Bonham for you. You can also sign up and do lessons with Brian and watch him play. There's some incredible stuff there. So one of the best drummers I've ever seen. And there's like 3 or 4 guys that could literally fill the seat of the professor. And you're one of them, my friend. And I said the same thing to Dean. There's only 2 or 3 guys that I've seen play that could hold a candle and keep Rush going if they decided to do that. And you're one of them. So,
well, thank you very much. Thanks. That's a whole other can of worms we could start talking about. But I appreciate the thought. Yeah, cool. We'll leave it at that. Neil had his own sense of time and feel and attack and personality behind the kit. And if you're not Neil, it ain't gonna sound like Neil.
Yep, I hear you.
Just try and get the ticket to get into the ball game.
Hey, Brian, have a great day, and thank you so much, brother.
All right, thanks, man.
Take care.
Appreciate it. Okay.
Bye.